175 games in this basketball rivalry. It's the longest basketball rivalry in the Southern Conference, and probably the second longest in the state of North Carolina, continuous, where they've played continuous. 85 years they've been playing, competing in basketball, maybe just about 80 years in football. The basketball started back during the 27-28 season. I think the first game was actually played in 1928 in January in Boone. Back in those days, you would not play a home-and-home series. You would play 2 games in Boone, 2 games in Cullowhee, and next year go back to Boone for the next year, this type of thing. Quite different from, that was because of the travel situation back then. In those days, it took you about 4.5 hours to get from Cullowhee to Boone. Now we know it's just over 2 hours. But how the rivalry developed and so forth, it's this rivalry, the App State-Western Carolina rivalry, is quite unique in a lot of ways. How it developed is one thing too. You know, you look at some of the classic rivalries, not only here in North Carolina and the region. You look at the Big Four down in well, what used to be called the Big Four: Duke, NC State, Wake Forest, and North Carolina. Those schools were all, if you drew a circle, it'd be about 25 miles from one school to the other if you drew a circle. Well, that was a natural rivalry thing because of the proximity. Western Carolina and App State, you wouldn't call sort of a natural rivalry because you know, they were like 2.5 at that time, as I say, about 4 hours apart, and just didn't have really those ties. But you have to look at the backgrounds of both schools. Both started as normal schools, training schools, back around the turn of the century. Actually, Western is just a little bit older than App State. Cullowhee State Normal College, Watauga College in Boone, then they go through the training school status, then to junior college status, then to teachers college, and I think we both became State Teachers College in 1929, then sort of, we wouldn't call them liberal arts schools, but changed where you had just not teacher education, but schools of business and so forth in 1951, and then we both joined the state university system in 1967, along with East Carolina and the other members of the 16 school university system. Some of the interesting games early on, 1928 game in Boone had to be suspended because of rock throwing on the floor. The fans actually throwing rocks on the floor. And that still isn't understood that if the game was actually indoors or outdoors. But I assume it was indoors, but you never know about that. Then that carried over. That wasn't the last rock throwing incident we had. 1959, and a lot of people say it was the football players that started this. The 59 game in Cullowhee, they were actually putting rocks inside of snowballs or wrapping rocks in snow and throwing at the App State bus, and actually broke a couple of windows, and that caused a lot of concern and some sanctions between the two schools and so forth. So that just made the rivalry even more intense. Then you get into the Henry Logan days in the 60s. Of course, Henry Logan, I still think is one of the, there's no doubt to me, one of the most exciting, and had a larger impact upon basketball in North Carolina than a lot of people, maybe even Michael Jordan and people like this. He was the first black African American to come to a predominantly white institution in the southeastern United States, not just North Carolina, not just western North Carolina, but the entire southeast. And what happened with the rivalries in basketball at that time was unbelievable. Packed arenas, anywhere you go, standing room only to watch Henry Logan play. Some weird finishes in this rivalry, just unbelievable. In 1982, we're playing in Boone, and that's back when we had Ronnie Carr, Greg Dennis. Ronnie Carr, of course, made the first three-point field goal in college basketball history. He sort of led us to into a great finish in that ball game. But with 7 seconds to go in that ball game, App State was on the foul line with a 1-point lead. Missed the foul shot. We got the rebound, a long rebound out, threw the ball over to midcourt. Our one of our guards dribbled the ball down for about 2 or 3 seconds, passed it to one of our other guards under the basket, who pump faked, went up and scored. This all happened in 7 seconds, according to the official records. But we timed it, and it was really 12 to 13 seconds. However, the automatic horn did not go off. It had to be manually turned on. The clock operator thought the automatic horn was on. It wasn't. That time they did not have the red lights on the backboard, so you didn't have that to tell you when the time when it expired. So the referee asked the official scorekeeper, did the horn go off? He says, no, the horn never went off. Not that time had expired. So they said, game over, Western wins. So that was in 1982. They got us back in 1997 in Boone, almost identical situation. They hit a shot after the clock had expired 2 seconds, and they counted it. So these are just, that again, adding fuel to the fire in this rivalry.